Today we're talking about Proctorio and what Proctorio is. It is a web proctoring service that the district has purchased for this year so that we can keep track of students as they are taking tests all over the place, whether in school or at home or whatever, and it checks for suspicious activity, and I'm using the air quotes, the Joey air quotes there, but it looks for suspicious activities that are happening while the student is taking the test. To get started here, I'm going to talk about a couple of places that you're going to be able to find resources. The first one for your students inside the Canvas toolbox, which is a Canvas course that's created for your students to use. There is a Proctorio exam proctoring area. So if I click on that little button here from the home page, and then you'll see there are different resources that are here. This overview one will send them to a place where they can see some documentation from Proctorio. So if they have privacy questions and things like that, that you can send them here so that they and their parents can look it up and see what Proctorio all does and then notify you later if there is an issue. We had some questions about this yesterday as far as, what do we do if a student says they're not comfortable having this happen, because Proctorio is kind of recording what is going on while they're taking the test. In that case, that's something that you would need to discuss with your administrator on campus to find a resolution there. I'm not qualified to give you an answer for that. I do not have that much power. But know that stuff is here, and there are some other resources, and we'll walk through some of those a little bit later as well. For you as a teacher in the Canvas Level Up course, there is a Proctorio spot as well. And so this is where we're going to start. We're going to give you a little bit more of an overview of Proctorio, share some of these things with you. Proctorio is web-based. It can use audio and video and record while the student is taking the test. And there are a number of different options that you can turn on or off at your discretion that it will keep track of. And we're going to go through those options here a little bit later on. It interacts seamlessly with computers, so laptops and PCs. This does not work on mobile devices, phones, or iPads. We did some research, a bit of research before we landed on Proctorio, and there really is nothing that's good that works on phones and or iPads. So we have to go with this process on a computer. It also must work as it uses an extension in Google Chrome, so they have to use Chrome when they're taking this. As they go through this process to click to start taking the quiz, Proctorio does a check to make sure that they're using Chrome and that this extension is installed. And if it's not, it walks them through that process. So know that that is available. You're going to have to activate this on every course that you're going to use it for. So if you teach, world history and American history, you'd have to turn it on for all of your courses. And once it's on, it stays on for you. And this works with classic quizzes only, not new quizzes. Some of you may say, I don't even know the difference. If you don't know the difference, that means you're using classic quizzes and you're okay. But it does not work with the new quizzes option. We have a workaround though, and it's kind of listed here. If you create a new quiz, then you can create a classic quiz and put the link to the new quiz in it. You can still use the Proctorio proctoring exam options while a new quiz is being utilized. And your DLC can help you with that if you have more questions. There are different guides that are available here. These are some Proctorio resources that I have, and this is on the overview page of Proctorio in Level Up. Also know that what I'm going to show you mostly has to do with using a webcam and a microphone. So if they're using a desktop, those options are not available on most desktops, especially the ones at school. The ones at the house, at their homes may have a webcam or a microphone, but the ones at school will not. So if that becomes the case, it may be that you're going to have to make two different exams. You use the quiz twice, and once can be for your face-to-face kids if they're using a lab environment, and then the other one can be for students at home. So keep that in mind as well, okay? Once a student starts the quiz, as I said, and you're going to see this in a little bit, it will walk them through a series of different things to get them ready. So as you're thinking about how much time you're going to allow for a student to take a quiz, you may want to add a few minutes onto that just so that you know they have enough time to get to the actual start of the quiz. Okay. These will always come back to you here. Proctorio support is here. There's some good resources that Proctorio has created as well. These buttons will take you to the various sections of what we're going to walk through today. Step 1, step 2, 3, and 4 are before the test, how you set it all up and get it ready to go. And then we have 3 after the exams that we'll cover as well. Okay, Jeff and Jane, have I missed anything before I jump into this a little more?
Looking good on my end.
Okay. So first going to walk into the step 1 and how you activate Proctorio in your course. This is inside of Canvas. Notice I have a video that will walk you through this process as well. And then I also have the step-by-step guides. There could possibly be 2 steps to this. The first one that you're going to have to do is activate Proctorio in the course navigation. And that is if you come to your course and you go to the settings option here. Normally, by default, it'll land on course details, but you're going to need to come to navigation. And for you, if you haven't activated yet, this secure exam proctor would be at the bottom. You're going to have to drag it up to the top part so that it is active in the course. And then if we watch quickly, when I click save, Proctorio exam, it only shows up for a split second. What that means is that the Google Chrome extension that you need to have installed is actually already installed on the device. If they're using it, or if you or your students are using a district computer, laptop or desktop, this extension is already pushed out to them, so they should not have to worry about installing it. If they're using a device at home, they'll have to install it. And in that, the way they could tell right away would be that secure exam proctor option would be visible here on the course navigation. Let's see. And if they would have to go through that process, this is in both the student toolbox and here in the teacher level up course, there is a video and step-by-step instructions on how this happens as well. This is almost more for you. For the student, once they start the quiz, it's going to check to see that it's installed, and if not, it'll walk them through that process right then and there. Okay. Any questions on how to get it active? Keep in mind, this has to be in every course that you have. If you do it just for one, it's only going to work for that one. If you have courses that are cross-listed, then it will work for all of those. But if you have separate courses, you're going to have to do it for all of them. Okay. Before we get into all the settings and everything that would come next, I wanted to take a couple minutes here. There's about a 2.5-minute video that has been made that walks you through what a student would see as they go through this quiz, or how it's going to look for them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start this quiz or this video, and so you can watch through it. When it's time to take the test, if you've already installed the Proctorio extension, you can go right to the quiz. Notice that since I installed it in the last step, it's not showing in my course navigation anymore. If you haven't installed it yet, when you click on the quiz, it will prompt you to install it at that time. Okay, I'm ready to take my quiz, so I select to turn it on, and it's going to show me an agreement policy right to start with, saying that Proctorio is going to be monitoring it, and you have to select the Start Exam Pre-checks at the bottom of the screen. It's going to run a diagnostic test, check to make sure that your webcam works and that you have a healthy connection. And then it gives you a little preview here saying that your exam is about to begin, and you can click Next. Okay, we're testing the webcam image, so I'm going to come up here and give myself a little more light. You need to center your picture. It's going to take a series of 5 pictures, as you saw, And now notice it recognized that I was there, so I'm going to accept and begin my exam. Now, as I'm taking the exam, you're going to notice in the upper left-hand corner here, or somewhere in your screen, there's going to be some quiz tools that are there. So I can increase the zoom, I can decrease the page zoom. It talks about my battery and the length that I've left. And it also gives me the opportunity to start a live chat with Proctorio if I'm having any trouble. If this is in your way, I can choose the collapse button at the bottom, and it will show this little webcam area, and I can pull this anywhere I want to. So I can put it down in the corner so it's out of my way, and then I still have all the options. This one will let me expand the tool if I want to have it back open here. Okay. It is going to, I can take my quiz, so I'm going to read my questions carefully as you would, answer my questions, and then I'm going to select Submit Quiz. It will save my quiz. It'll show me that Proctorio is ending the session in 4 minutes to let me know that's done. Or if I am completely finished and want to exit, I can just click this button and it will take me out of Proctorio and I'm ready to go again. All right, so that was just a quick overview of what it looks like as a student when you would go in. So if we're ready for that, then I'm ready to start going and showing you how you activate the Proctorio exam, and then how you can check your or set your options for it. So I've just got a Proctorio course here that I've made, and I'm going to start with my sample quiz here for October 13th. So I'm going to click on it to open it and start to edit. There are a couple of things that you need to check under the details options here. The first one that you're going to see once you activate Proctorio in your course is under the quiz restrictions. There is now an option to enable Proctorio Secure Exam Proctor. When I check that box, you're going to notice right above here in this area, the access code is going to become enabled. You can see it is grayed out. So that is not an option that you have to turn on or off. Proctorio does that for you, and you do not need to change anything here. If there is any issue at all with the access code, that student would contact Proctorio through their helpline or the chat that's involved on the quiz itself. So that's nothing you have to worry about. When you check this, the only other thing here that would change, or that may change slightly, is you're going to have a time limit set. Proctorio allows anywhere from 1 minute to 8 hours for your time limit. So you need to determine how long you want to give your students to take this quiz. Again, keeping in mind, maybe add a couple minutes or adjust your questions accordingly to allow them to get in and make sure everything gets done. Now that we've got all these set, we're ready to go and actually look at all of the settings that Proctorio offers so that you can choose which ones you want to have active for the quiz. Up where it says details here in questions, you're used to those, but now will be a Proctorio settings option as well. So I'm going to click on that. That's going to show me a number of different options that I have available. The first time that you come into a course and want to use Proctorio, you're going to have to go through and select all the options that you want and the value that those options are going to hold. But once you do, you can say, and I'll show you later on, there's going to be an option to save that as a profile on the bottom, and then it'll show up under Save Profiles here so that the next time you use this, you don't have to go through and check them all again. You can just select the one that you want. You also have the ability to make multiple profiles, so that's also there for you if you need. Okay. First thing we're going to look at are the exam settings. I'm going to give you a quick overview here on these, and then I'm going to go back to the level up course so that we can walk through what a lot of these different ones mean. Okay. So as an overview here, this is just a few things that I want you to pay attention to. They're broken down into different options: recording, lockdown, verification, and then in-quiz tools. As I hover over any of these options, I want you to notice two things. The first thing is that underneath here, it's going to give you a quick overview of what this actually means. So when I hover over record video, it's going to capture the video from the webcam for the entire exam. If I go to audio, It says the same thing, record audio. We'll capture audio from the microphone for the entire exam. The other thing that you're going to see is there's going to be a green question mark that's on top of, in the top right corner of each one of these. If I want more information on this, I can select that green question mark, and it's going to open a tab to the Proctorio website specifically for this option. Some of them have videos, some of them is just text. It kind of depends on which one it is, but it lets you watch the video or read through what it actually does, and that helps you make a better decision for yourself. Okay. Some of these also, I want you to notice, when I click on record video, I want you to watch what happens in the verify video section down here. Once I click, it flashes green a couple times. That's Proctorio's way of telling you, you turn this on, you may like this option as well. So it suggests other options that go with the first one that you did. Okay. Record audio, same thing happens down here. Okay. Some of them also give you an option. So if I say to disable new tabs, for instance, it's not just turning one thing on. I may have some extra options that go along with it. So do I mean no new tabs at all? Or could it be a new tab could open from a link that I put in their quiz? Okay, so I could select that as a different option. That way they're not able to go away from the quiz necessarily, but they're only opening things that you want them to have access to. Last thing I want to talk about here is some of these will turn on automatically if you select one of the options. A good example is under lockdown options, this force full screen. When I click it and I choose to do lenient, let's say, notice all three of these were turned on. And that's, again, Proctorio's way of saying, you chose this, these three are really good ones to have on there. And I can't turn any of them off without turning the force full screen off as well. So in this case, all three of these have to be on if you want to use the force full screen. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the Level Up course because I want to show you what is available for you here, and I'll talk through it as well on this one. I went through turning Proctorio for a quiz. So here is the settings and overview. Got a video that kind of walks through exactly what I showed you just now with all of those different options with the flashing green and everything. There are also some step-by-step guides here, but then below I've broken it down into each one of those categories. So under the recording options section, I kind of list what these options mean, and then we have whether LCISD recommends that you turn it on or not. So you may see a check mark, you may see a question mark, which means it really is up to you, or you may see an X on some of them because we just don't think that it's really worth the time. That does not mean that you have to use all that we recommend. It does not mean that you can't use the ones that we don't recommend. It is just what that word means, a recommendation. We're trying to make things a little easier for you, okay? With these top ones, they're pretty self-explanatory. Recording from the webcam, recording audio that happens. Record screen means that it will record whatever is on the screen as they're taking the test. And I'll get into a couple of other options a little bit down below. Record web traffic means if you do have them where they can click on other links or where they can search other places, it will keep a screenshot of all the websites that were visited while the exam was being taken. And record room means that it will actually have them take the webcam and scan the area where they are taking their tests so you can check to see if they have any extra notes there or if anything like that is happening. Okay. Under lockdown options, we have the force full screen, and I just talked about that one a little bit. That means it'll go full screen so that they should not be able to click to open any new tabs or get into any other thing that's on their computer. If you click force full screen on, then these other three options are going to have to be on. Only one screen, no new tabs, and close open tabs. Only one screen means that if they are working on a device that has more than one monitor, it's going to ask them to unplug that other monitor first because Proctorio can only record one screen. If they have two screens, they could have all the questions and answers opened up on another screen, and Proctorio is trying to keep that from happening. Disable new tabs, we talked about a little bit. No new tabs means they can't open anything else, or they have the in-quiz links only, which means that then if they click on a link that is inside of the quiz that you're giving them, it could then work, okay? And close open tabs means before they are ready to take the test, Proctorio is going to make sure that they have closed any other open tabs that they have open in their web browser so they can't get to them one way or another. Some other options that are here to help keep your test secure. You can disable printing and the clipboard so they can't copy and paste anything. Blocking downloads is an option. So you have to be careful with just in the fact of if you have them if you have a PDF of a story or a passage that they're supposed to be looking at while they take the quiz, and if they need to download that passage, then you don't want to have this turned on. But if you don't plan on them having to download anything, then that's perfect for you to use. This clear cache, what this will do is it will take any links that were visited while the test was being taken only, just those links, and it will clear them out so a student can't go into their history to see the test again. Disabling right click is so they can't copy paste for the most part or have any of those other options. And then there's a prevent re-entry option. You have two choices for this. It's no re-entry, which means they can't come back. If they're knocked out of the quiz for whatever reason, they cannot come back in. Or they have re-entry with agent. And that means a Proctorio agent can be contacted through the help links that we give them, and they can explain their issue. Maybe their network went down and they just lost connection, and the Proctorio agent can let them back in or reach out to you to see if they should be let back in or not. We have verification options. You've got video and audio. Obviously video is they take the picture, you saw that one already. Verify audio, making sure that it's working. Desktop means can they record that desktop? The verify ID I have recommended as off because if you're already taking a picture of them to start with, I don't think we really need to have their ID. And then the verify signature just means that it's going to give them that little notification at the beginning that the Proctorio is being used and that they're checking off they're okay with that. Finally, for exam settings, the last couple are they have an on-screen calculator that you can use and they have an on-screen whiteboard that you can use. The calculator comes in two options, basic and scientific. I'm not going to pretend to think that I know exactly how good that scientific one is. So you math and science teachers that may use it, you might want to check it out first to see if it's something that you'd be interested in. With the whiteboard option, this is something that lets them draw or type on, and it's just a little pop-up window that shows up on the front of the quiz. There is no saving of it. They can't copy and paste from it. It's really just a little work area. And if they're using a computer with no touch screen, they'd have to be using the mouse to draw on. So again, that would be a decision for you to make on whether you think it would be worthwhile. And I do have a suggestion here that Proctorio said is if you do use the whiteboard, then they strongly suggest that you use the record screen feature so you can see what they were putting on the whiteboard. And in this case, it probably wouldn't even be necessarily for the cheating aspect as much as if they're working on a problem and they got it wrong, where did they go wrong? You could maybe see what's happening there. Now we're going to move to the behavior settings. Now keep in mind that these were the exam settings. And the big difference with those is, or one of the big differences with those is, with the exam settings, you have to set them before any student takes the test. Once one student starts the test, those exam settings are locked down and they cannot be changed, okay? When we're going to work into next with the behavior settings, these are settings that you can change at any time, before the test, during the test, after the test, because these are more, you're not really changing what they can and can't access, you're changing what Proctorio is looking for and how intently it's looking for something. And it'll make more sense, I think, as we go through. Okay. So for the first behavior settings that I want to talk about they have just an overall behavior setting. Proctorio has a recommended option that they say this is ones that many teachers have used and we think this is a great place for you to start. Keep in mind that if you make any changes to anything after clicking recommended, it's going to jump off recommended and it's going to go to custom. That's okay. Again, you can customize this however you think you need to. I just want you to be aware that that's going to happen, okay? So your recommended setting, as we just said, is basic behavior settings that Proctorio has learned as a good practice, okay? You have a lenient setting. And what that means is with all those other exam settings that you did, Proctorio is they're gonna have to break that rule a lot in order for Proctorio to say, wait a minute, something's wrong. A moderate setting is obviously a little more. They don't have to do it as often as lenient or in order to be notified. You have a group exam setting. That means that if there are a number of kids taking the test in one spot or they're taking it together, you can check that, and then it's not so worried about the audio levels because they know there'll be interaction there. There's an open note option. This is one that you might want to think about just for the fact of if you have students that are able to use scratch paper or something or use a scientific calculator, a TI calculator down here, it's going to Proctorio will generally look for a student's eyes drifting down and back up and down and back up because that's a sign that they're looking at something maybe they shouldn't be. By choosing an open note option, that will tell Proctorio that they're able to use notes so their eyes will be shifting a lot. And then you have the custom settings, which is whatever you have set for, okay? Below the settings are what they call frame metrics. And what is shown here will depend on what exam settings you had set up to start with, and then what exam metrics you have chosen as well. But these are slide rules. And the more to the green that you have, the less Proctorio is going to necessarily care about the student doing that or not, or that doesn't pay as much attention. The more you drag it to the right, the more intense they look, or more intently they look at these things to see if something is happening that shouldn't be, okay? All of these metrics that we're talking about are really based on students, comparing one student's actions to the rest of the class. If something is really out of whack with what one student is doing compared to another, that's when it'll start throwing a lot of flags up, okay? And the exam metrics are the last section that we need to go through. These are what they call computer-based abnormalities. In other words, like I was just talking about, they're doing something a lot more or a lot less than somebody else is doing. An option of navigating away. Is the test taker going away from the exam window? Again, if you have them where they're opening multiple windows to do something, that would be a natural thing, and it won't be abnormal for one student to do it because they're all doing it. Keystrokes. If they're having a lot less keystrokes than something they're supposed to be typing, there's a possibility they're copy pasting something that they shouldn't be. Copy paste is there as well. If they're trying to resize their browser, making it smaller, they're probably trying to see something that is behind that browser. So again, a chance for suspicious activity. Mouse movement, scrolling, clicking are all other options that you can do. I put teacher discretion here because as I work on a computer, I randomly move my mouse all the time. So for me, that would be the abnormality for me every time. So for your discretion to look at. They have environmental abnormalities. So audio levels, do you want them to pay attention to audio levels? Is there a lot of talking that's happening that probably shouldn't be if they're there by themselves? Here's the head and eye movement again. How much are they moving their eyes back from the computer back down or from the monitor back down? They leave the room and then multi-face if there's more than one person in the room. And then finally, they have some technical abnormalities. The exam duration. Did they take the test way faster or way slower than other students? Did they start at a time that they probably shouldn't have or end at a time they shouldn't have? And then they have exam collusion, which is, are students taking the test like maybe on the same network? That would maybe throw a red flag that they're trying to work together when they shouldn't be. But again, keep in mind, if your students are face-to-face and they're sitting in the same classroom, they're going to show that they're on the same network. So just take that with a grain of salt. Finally, I have at the bottom here how to create that new profile. And if I go back to my sample quiz here, this is the exam settings we went through. Here are all the behavior settings. And these are the slides that I talked about. Now watch, if I click recommended, it turns on a lot of them. As soon as I drag this, it changes it to custom because I am changing what their recommended settings are. Okay. And then at the bottom, they have a create new profile option. So I can select that option. I can choose a different little icon if I want to. I can put a name. So maybe you make a profile, one profile for if they're using notes and one profile for if they don't. And then you can set this as a default if you want to. The very first profile that you make, you don't have this option because it's the only option. And then you could click save. And when I do, now I've got my two, look, I named them the same, that was dumb. I have two different profiles up here named exactly the same with the same icon, so I could not tell them apart. So don't do what I do, but make sure you have a clear name so you're understanding of what they are. Okay. Questions for any of that? Let me check my notes too to see if there's anything that I forgot. Keep in mind with these, with the exam settings again, those have to be set before the first student starts to take the test. They cannot be changed after that. But these behavior settings can change at any time. So if they're taking a test and I see that the navigating away, all the students are showing up as red because they're navigating away, and then I remember, oh yeah, I had them go to another tab, I can turn that way down and it won't be looked at so heavily by Proctorio's filters. We've gone through, we've made all of these changes to these settings. We can save or save and publish if you're ready to do that. The students are now ready to take that quiz and they would walk through the process that that video showed earlier. Now we're going to jump ahead to where the quiz has been taken and I'm ready to start looking at some different results and how does that all work. Okay, so I need to come back to this one. I've gone through and taken a quiz a couple of times as fake students so that we have something to look at. So when you have come through, your students have taken the quiz and you are ready to view the results, I'm going to click on the quiz, go back to it, and you're going to notice on the right-hand side here underneath Speed Grader is now an option to view Proctorio Gradebook. So I'm going to select that. This is the overview page that you're going to run into, and I'm going to jump back real quickly to the Canvas toolbox because I want, or to level up because I want to show you that these are here as well. I'm going to go really quickly over the different options that are on this page, but this has details, more details to remind you what is happening there, okay? So I just wanted you to know that so you're not trying to frantically keep up and think that you're not going to be able to see them again. This landing page gets you to the overview of the Proctorio Gradebook, and it's going to show you every attempt that each student has made on this test. So if you've got 20 kids and they've each done it twice, you would see 40 things listed here. You can see Student Panda 2 took this one time. Student Panda 1 has taken it twice. Okay. The I tells you whether you've actually looked at these before or not. If you've never looked at these options, it would be grayed out with a slash through it. So it just reminds you of where you were if you were looking at things. It tells you the name, obviously the submission time that it happened, which attempt it was, the score that they got based on however many points it's worth. This annotations, I'll talk about a little bit later, but it's a place where you can actually take notes as you're looking at this student's results and their video to remind you of what you may want to go back and look at. Abnormalities, again, we talked about the abnormalities as it's something that one student is doing that is not the same. Either they're doing it way more often or way less often than what the other students on average are doing. You have your suspicion levels here, which will change according to what your proctorial behavior settings are, but they kind of give you just a quick glance. At quick glance, you can see all of these students are showing up as red, which means there's something they were doing that maybe I need to take a look at. And then they also have a few different options here. This is the collusions one. Since I took Student Panda 1 and Student Panda 2, I took it from my cubicle here. That's telling me that I was in close proximity when the test was being taken. There is also a delete gradebook option up here. Proctorio suggests that you do not use that. They cannot get any information back if you delete it. It would delete all the results out of here. So I would stay away from that button unless absolutely necessary for some reason. The next tab after Proctorio Gradebook is Proctorio Settings. In the Proctorio Settings, this is where I can come back and change my behaviors. So again, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but on my suspicion level, I've got red here for all of them. Well, that doesn't help me if they're all red, or maybe I need to look at what I was doing. And I could be, maybe it's my head and eye movement. When I took this quiz, I was intentionally looking away from things or trying to cover up my web camera. If I take this head and eye movement and I move it down to green and I go back to my grade book, now all of a sudden my suspicion level is not bad because I'm not worried about that anymore. And that's where those slide rules can really help you as you're going through these. Okay, so I'm able to alter this. If I move that to yellow, now I'm still on green, I'm at 30%, but if I could up it a little bit more, I think you get the idea. So this is where it's nice that they're right next to each other like this. So if I see a lot of suspicion, I can go in and quickly find maybe what the issue was. Okay. Next tab is Proctorio Map. All this does is show you where the students were when they were taking the test. It's obviously not exact, but it will give you a general idea. Display options, what are you seeing when you are walking through the grade book? And by default, they have these three things turned on. You can turn the other ones on if you want to. They notice they do have FERPA controls here at the bottom. So if you were looking to share this information with somebody, you could turn off the name and the ID so that they wouldn't know, or maybe the video, so they wouldn't know who was taking the test. And then you can export that information on the export options, which is here as well. All right, so then we're getting in the home stretch here. Now I want to kind of talk about what you can actually see. So if I come back here and I change maybe my head and eye movement back up high, and I come back to my initial quick overview, I see that, oh, there's some suspicious activity happening over here. I need to go check my suspicious activity. So I'm going to click on the attempt that I want to look at, and it's going to populate a whole bunch of information here. Okay. Again, before I go any further, if I come down a little bit more on this next page, Proctorio has some great videos that kind of walk you through an overview of this as well. I didn't make my own because theirs are very good. And that's how to change the abnormalities. And this one, it talks about how to customize your settings to see what is there. But then on this next page, I talk about the individual attempts, another Proctorio video, but I break down this view for you so that you can see what all of these are named and kind of what they're there for, okay, as well as Proctorio toolbar on the side. So when we get to this page, it still gives you all the information at the top. You can still see who it is, what attempt it was, and all of this. Then it gives you the video. So I had the webcam active. So this will tell me where I am in the video and what what the student was doing during the video. On this right side here, this is where this toolbar comes into play. So right now it's on display incident log. So I know at 1 second, I looked away from the quiz page. At 50 seconds, I looked away from the quiz page. So it tells me what incidents it's documenting. I have next the display room scan. So if you had them use the webcam to look around the room beforehand, you could look at that video here. This is the display screen recording. I didn't turn it on for this one, but if you had that option, you could then see what's actually happening on their screen as the video is playing. It's going to be it's going to coincide with this video here as well. I couldn't record this one because I was recording the other video at the same time. And then they have the location information, which is that map. if there's any annotations, and that's what I had mentioned earlier. So if I come in up here and I notice something weird on this one, I could make a note for me and say at 50 seconds, blah, 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 and I can save this. When I save it, then that note is going to show up here in this annotations thing, and I could come back to it, and when I go back to revisit, or if I have to revisit, I can remember what I was actually thinking or what I actually saw at that time. Okay, and then display ID, and finally how you can export your PDF or save your annotations. Okay. Now below here they have two different timelines. And I'm going to have to come here because I can't remember. Timeline frames and timeline full exam. This is timeline frames. So it is actually showing, if I click on these, I can see, oh, there I rubbed my eye at that time in the video. And I can see I looked away for a little bit and things like that. This down here would be a more full, it would let me jump to different areas in the video. So I'm right there right now. If I come up to here, oh, maybe it doesn't jump. I thought it did. Oh, I remember why. So I'm going to come back to this one here. If you notice on this picture, and I know it's kind of hard to see, let me see if I can enlarge this one a little bit. This video, my video is only like 1.5 minutes, so it all shows up in that time frame. But in this one, this is like an over a 10-minute video. In this little area right here, this little bar that I have set for number 5, that little bar you can drag back and forth to find a specific location on the quiz that you want to investigate. So I might see there's a whole lot of red going on right here, and I drag it to here to investigate. And these red options here are the red options here. So this time frame shows what is highlighted in this specific area. Okay. So then I could come to this area quickly and see if there's something that I need to be worried about. Hope that makes sense. If I come back again in these Proctorio settings and I change this to all the way to head and eye movement, and then I go back to my Proctorio gradebook and open this up, it's red. Notice all of these bars got much taller. The higher the bar is, the more intense the issue that they think I might have is. And so I could jump up to here, and you can see this is where I was actually trying to put my hand in front of the camera just to see what effect or what it would say here. Okay. Below these timelines are just some other information that they can share with you. So abnormal head movement will highlight test takers who look away from the camera. I can show details, and this is the minimum and the mean for all of the students, and I was above the mean because I was looking away a lot. Okay. This also shows you computer index if you need, like did they have a good connection and all those things. You can check that. If a student says that they lost connection, I can go to show details here and it'll show me what their connection looked like and if it dropped at any time. With this video here, now this time when I double clicked, it took me to where I was in the video, okay? So I don't click up here, I can click here. And I can quickly jump to where I am and it'll show me. It's sped up intentionally so you can look through the whole thing, but you do have the options to slow it down. So if I come back here, I can slow down. Oh, that goes backwards, I'm sorry. But I can look and see what's happening there. Again, keep in mind, like if I come back here to Proctorio, everything that I've gone through today is covered in this section of the Canvas Level Up course. So you can always go back and visit it if you need to. And my button, oh, it's still loading. It's like, and my buttons didn't show up. But all of the step 1 through 4 of before the test happens, what you need to do, and keep in mind step 1 and step 2, I think only need to be done once. And this is what it looks like when your page doesn't load properly, in case you didn't know that in Canvas. Here they come. And then these after the exam ones are like an overview of the grade book, how to change those behaviors and abnormalities within the grade book itself, and then how to look at the individual attempts. Okay. For your students, remember they also have options here inside of the Canvas toolbox is the Proctorio overview, and then they have directions on how to take the quiz and those different options as well. Let me come down here and show you. They have the overview, how to install the extension, and how to take the quiz. So all of that information is there as well.